Get to know the current political issues, the real stories behind the headlines. Get interactive. MyPolitics with Art Barry. Only here on MyTV Cebu.
Good evening, my dear televiewers. Once again, welcome to our weekly TV show, MyPolitics. This is your host, Art Barret. This evening, we have our special guest, and despite her busy schedule, she finds time with us, and she will discuss with us a very important issues and concerns with regards to a coordinating body that talks and discuss about the plans and programs for Metro Cebu. And she is a graduate of marine biology, a cum laude, and she took her master's degree in one of the famous universities in the U.S. And she is now the present Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board as a research program and organization development program management officer in the person of Ma'am Evelyn Nacario Castro. Good evening. May gabi kanimo, Ma'am Evelyn.
Good evening, Sir Art. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be invited. This is my first time to join your show, and I'm really very glad to be able to share with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ma'am Evelyn. Actually, you have been exposed and you have been guesting to a lot of programs, no? Atong na-discuss og imuhang natuki og unsay plans and programs with the Metro Cebu and Development and Coordinating Board, and then ang maong creation, ang maong organization pagkakaroon, it expanded already, no? Before og imuhang ato ang matanawan to our televiewers, the composition of the board is mura og the areas ingnon the local government units participated or covered with the board is up to if I am not mistaken, up to Talisay. Karon,
Danao, yeah.
Karon is already from as far as Karkar, then from as far as Danao,
yes.
in the north.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, unsa naman ni Ma'am Evelyn, is it already in actual board nga ingnon ta na ay juridical personality, so to speak?
Yeah. Actually, the basis for the creation of the Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board is a memorandum of agreement. And that memorandum of agreement is really anchored on the provisions of the Local Government Code and the Philippine Constitution, enabling the local government units to come together to really share and, of course, discuss things that are common to them, the assets and the challenges that they face. So what the board provides, what that platform provides, is really to look at transboundary issues. Maybe as a short background, the MCDCB was formed in April of 2011.
Okay.
In fact, at that time, it was witnessed by then Secretary of DILG, Robredo, Secretary Robredo. So you have the leadership from Danao to Karkar, the LGUs there, and critical also are the national government agencies and the private sector organizations. So it's not purely public, it's also not purely private. This is perhaps a platform where you have the public and the private sector coming together to look at the interest of the entire metropolitan Cebu area in relation to sustainable urban development. So it respects, of course, the mandates of the LGUs, and of course brings their resources and with the resources also of the private sector to help address the needs and concerns of the metropolitan area.
Consortium.
Mura siya coalition, gid ni siya, to be able to discuss, share what their aspirations and interests are, what their challenges are, and also as a platform to share knowledge and resources to address issues that affect not just one LGU, but affects the entire metropolitan area. Siguro, Sir Art, ako lang siguro sumpayan ang imuhang gisulti earlier about expansion, because when Metropolitan Cebu was defined early on, Cutubra, it was only up to Talisay
Okay.
and Mandaue and Lapu-Lapu. So back in 1997, the Regional Development Council actually expanded the definition of Metropolitan Cebu to cover already Danao to Karkar.
So these are the
13.
stakeholders.
These are the
name of
stakeholders.
the local government.
Yes,
unit.
local government, national government, and the private sector.
Okay.
Oo.
What are the main focus, Ma'am Evelyn, on the board? On the board?
The first advocacy or the first intention really of the board is to facilitate a shared development plan
Okay.
for the entire metropolitan Cebu area.
Okay.
If you recall, back in the 80s, we had the Metro Cebu Land Use and Transport Study. After that, there was no successor plan. So what the board intended was to have a plan that will facilitate coordination of development plans for the entire metropolitan area.
I see.
Because at that time, each LGU, of course, they have their own respective mandates to look at their own areas, but there really is no structure, no platform that enabled them to look at it from a city-region perspective. So the MCDCB provides this platform that they see it not just on an individual LGU basis, but from the context of a city region. And why was that done? Really, it was in the context of competitiveness, how Cebu can compete in the rest of the world, right? But we're no longer just competing outside of the country. In fact, the competition in the country itself is very stiff. That you need to project that you are able to, one, attract investments. Of course, the necessary support mechanisms. You have good education, good quality of graduates, and of course the necessary infrastructure to be able to do that. So you cannot do that if you limit yourself to a single LGU
Yes,
basis.
Ma'am Evelyn. In the areas of cooperation
Yes.
of MCDCB and the local government units, unsa may imong tanaw?
You mean to say in terms of the planning?
Yes,
Yes.
in terms of the planning.
Because of that, because that was the first intention to really have a shared plan. So what the MCDCB did was to facilitate a Metrowide visioning.
Okay.
So that's the reason why you have Mega Cebu, the waves, wholesome, advanced, vibrant, equitable, and sustainable,
And sustainable,
as
okay.
a shortened version of the vision. And then, of course, the 4 development strategies. What are the key aspects that the MCDCB would like to promote? So it's looking at competitiveness, livability, mobility, and metropolitan management and coordination. And this is where, with that kind of vision now laid, it became the basis for a roadmap. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, there's no Metrowide plan.
Yeah, exactly.
So it became the basis for a roadmap, which is looking at 2050. So long-term,
It's
it's
a
really
long-term
long-term
Okay.
planning, long-term visioning. So you have, the question is, how do you now implement that? It's too long, it's 2050 and all that. So of course, it's broken down into short-term,
Okay.
medium-term,
And
and long-term plan.
Okay.
And all those 4 aspects are being addressed. So right now, this is the sort of the Bible that the board is using as reference as to the next steps. Oh.
Now, what's the role of MCDCB, Ma'am Evelyn, with or the participation? So the board to the RDC of the region.
Yes. In the first place, maybe again going back to history, in 1997, the Regional Development Council of Central Visayas, by resolution, created the Metro Cebu Development Council.
Okay.
So the MCDCB is not necessarily new. It is a successor of what was then created years ago, the Metro Cebu Development Council,
Okay.
where you have the LGUs coming together, right? But it did not perhaps accomplish what it wanted to accomplish. It was only in this 2011 that there was like, siguro the chemistry, the necessary context enabled the LGUs and the private sector and national government agencies to really said, it's time. It's time for them to look at how Cebu is going to look like in the long run and what they need to do to facilitate that growth. So it's an evolution no, of what was the original intent. So if it was created by the RDC, the MCDC, Now, with the creation of the MCDCB, the Regional Development Council passed a resolution supporting the MCDCB as a platform for development cooperation and planning.
I see.
So every time there is progress of what MCDCB has done, it reports to the RDC. In fact, MCDCB is a member of the RDC in the sectoral committee level and also at the full council, but of course on a non-voting basis. So it has that relationship because the plans that MCDCB facilitates will go through the RDC process. In fact, after the roadmap, we had to present it not just at the board level of MCDCB, but to the different committees of the RDC, then the full council, and from the full council, of course, national office.
So in this case, Ma'am Evelyn, you have already a lot of case studies, no?
Yes.
For implementation. It's just like the board is a repository of all these case studies funded by different financial institutions.
Yes. What happens is that MCDCB brings to fore the collective needs and interests and aspirations of the entire city region. When the visioning was done, when the roadmap was done, it went through a very participative process in terms of bringing out, okay, what are really the issues? There's so many issues, but we cannot address everything.
Yes.
Plus, there are already mandates of the different government agencies as to what they need to do. So it is like a consolidator. It is also a facilitator. It is a convener of these different key stakeholders of development for Metro Cebu. So it also helps these different groups bring it to the necessary institutions as to how it can pursue in terms of the next step. So it's really, in fact, it serves as some sort of a liaison, a sort of a facilitator, enabling the different agencies to really do what they can, no? At the same time, to look at it from a Metrowide perspective.
Okay, now let's focus on one issue, Ma'am Evelyn. No, when it comes to urban and land use planning and zoning.
Yes.
Within Metro Cebu.
Yes.
So that was an issue some years back until now. If I am not mistaken, wa pa'y usa ka LGU nga naka-present og comprehensive land use plan in this area of jurisdiction.
Actually, they do have. They have their respective land use plans. What the MCDCB through the roadmap provides is really like a framework plan, no, for the entire metropolitan area. If you break down the land use plan, you're really looking at how to connect one LGU to the next, right? So land use has a relationship, a close relationship with transportation, because you want to facilitate mobility and connectivity. So while there was a framework plan for the entire metro area in terms of spatial plan, what the MCDCB has done, and in fact it's close to completion already, is the Urban Transport Master Plan. The Urban Transport Master Plan, with the help of JICA, no? It's looking at how to interconnect one LGU to the other. So it has its own recommendations as to what needs to be facilitated, both in terms of the different things, no? Whether it's roads, whether it's rail, whether it's other forms of transport, and also looking at traffic management. So these are all interrelated issues in relation to land use. But land use is really the purview of the local government units. What MCDCB provides is a framework condition, so to speak, in terms of how you interconnect the different LGUs together.
Okay, Ma'am Evelyn, well said, and we have a lot of issues. My dear televiewers, maybe after our commercials, we'll be discussing and talking about transport and traffic management, as what Ma'am Evelyn made mention a while ago. Don't go away.
Get to know the current political issues, the real stories behind the headlines. Get interactive. MyPolitics with Art Barit. Only here on MyTV Cebu.
Welcome once again to our TV program, MyPolitics. This is your host, Art Barit. Our guest this evening is Ma'am Evelyn Nacario Castro of the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Center. Ma'am Evelyn, a while ago we were discussing about traffic management and transport and traffic management. And one of the issues wherein a lot of investors are always complaining and requesting the government, be it a national government or a local government, is about infrastructure program, infrastructure projects, wherein the region is lagging behind compared to our neighboring region in the country. But then, Cebu is not remiss when it comes to plans and programs as far as transportation, traffic management are concerned. So, but then, if ato ang balik-balikan, the program of the city mayor, Tomas R. Osmeña, in fairness to the incumbent city mayor, ang iyahang BRT. And then there are now a lot of models or modal transport programs wherein DOTR is presenting it to the public. Now, asa man tadapita ni Ma'am Evelyn pagkakaron, no? Unsa may stand of the board when it comes to transport and traffic management program?
Okay. First, maybe look at it from two P's, no? Meaning, you're looking at the first P, which is in terms of policy framework. In terms of what the MCDCB, through its Committee on Transport and Traffic Management, has done, it has facilitated a framework in terms of a traffic management code for each of the respective LGUs. So the intention being is that each traffic code somehow has some relation to the others. It's not so that when you, because when you move from place to place, you cannot be treated differently. So we have shared with the different LGUs sort of a standard template on traffic management, particularly through its traffic code. And of course, each LGU has its new ones as well. So they need to localize it, so to speak. So that we have facilitated through a consultative process. So you have the traffic code. You also look at the enforcement part. So in terms of the enforcement part, the MCDCB has actually also established what they call the MACT. This is the Metro Cebu Traffic Enforcers Academy. Again, it's looking at how to standardize and equip our traffic enforcers in terms of what they need to do, what the competencies they need to have. And of course, importantly also in terms of road safety. In fact, we worked with a group based in Manila in terms of having like standard speed limits and all that. So these things are being done. The other part that we are also facilitating is working with the JICA in terms of formulating an urban transport master plan for the entire city region. This master plan, which is about to be finished by first quarter of this year, is looking at multimodal transportation. So you're looking at road-based transportation, you're also looking at rail-based transportation. We're even looking at sea transportation and even ropeway, kaning sa cable car. So what you then have is, because you cannot sort of address the concern for traffic and particularly transport with just one modality. So it needs to look at the different modalities. What's important is how do you bring them together. So there needs to be a connectivity, there needs to be a facility where all these, so you have seamless mobility.
Yes, the MCDCB, Ma'am Evelyn, has a lot of studies, a very comprehensive one as far as your presentation is concerned. Now, what's may linkage nato ani with the DOTR?
Yes.
So the DOTR is also looking at the feasibility studies that we have?
Yes. In fact, the main counterpart of JICA is the DOTR in doing this urban transport master plan, because it's a national government. Plus, of course, you have an international ODA, no? Official Development Assistance, which
okay.
is JICA. So they are the main partners. Kita'y enabler lang ta, no?
Okay.
In terms of facilitating this, because in the first place, this came up because of the roadmap that MCDCB worked with in terms of JICA. So one of the sub-roadmaps there is really transport and traffic management. So as a take-off ng roadmap, mo nang nahimo na ning urban transport master plan. So definitely, because you need the mandate of the DOTR in terms of the transport part. But we are also working with the DPWH. Because another takeoff, mura man gud ni siya one step at a time. No? So you have the vision first, the roadmap, which is looking at the entire thing, focusing on the 7 important themes that Metro Cebu needs to address. Then comes one of the branches is the urban transport. Wa pa mahuman ang urban transport master plan, one of the key recommendations or priority projects is the 4th bridge. So now JICA is also looking at this. In fact, the feasibility study is now beginning. A 4th bridge linking Cebu mainland to Mactan Island, because even if you have the 2, the present one, plus the 3, the 3rd one, we still need another one. So that's being studied right now. No?
It would connect Cebu mainland to
Mactan. Mactan Island. So kung asa na siya, maunay gistadihan kung asa ang iyahang end-to-end. No? The original idea during the roadmap study was a dual mode bridge. Meaning it has the road, meaning vehicles can fly, and it also has a rail component. Because of their studies that the JICA did, ingon sila nga maybe it's not yet feasible to do the dual mode. So ang ilahang gihimo ron is really a road bridge, the 4th road bridge, and I believe that is really in the pipeline because the national government, the Philippines, and JICA has already established.
Ma'am Evelyn, this JICA-funded study is a sort of a guidance to the implementers or to national government agencies, including local government units.
Yes. So what the role of MCDCB is really to facilitate all this planning. But implementation is through respective organizations, whether it's national government, whether it's local government. So ang role sa MCDCB is really to facilitate this planning by getting support from different sources, whether it's ODA, whether it's from the private sector. So that's really the role that MCDCB has. But implementation, that's given to whoever has the respective mandates.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the programs implemented by the RDC in the region, Ma'am Evelyn, it came out in the papers 2 or 3 weeks ago that Cebu province and Cebu as a whole, no, compared to other regions or province in the region, considering daghang studying presented to the body, but then the funding is, I mean, the infrastructure ticket intended for Cebu is less compared to the other province in the region. Why is it that so?
Maybe not necessarily the province within the region, but other regions have a much higher, maybe batting average in terms of the projects. In fact, I think 2 years ago, we had material coming from DPWH itself, which showed that if Cebu or Region 7 had this amount, other regions were actually having more. In fact, double, triple. The plans of not the plans of the RDC, but the plans endorsed by RDC stems from the national government agencies. So however ready the regional offices are of the national government agencies, that's the one that's being presented to the RDC. So there is a need, of course, to strengthen that. How prepared, how ready, and how quick perhaps the national government agencies are in pushing for those projects. So I'm just reminded of, I think the regions that got really substantial amounts were the ones in the northern Mindanao, and of course, Region 12 ba na? Yan ang sa Davao region. Of course, there may be other explanations, but that's what we saw, no? Na we have somehow, we're not in the top in terms of the amount of projects that we propose, as well as the amount of support that comes down to Region 7.
Okay, now, in other regions, Ma'am Evelyn, they don't have MDCB, no? Just
Yes.
a very active one, and
Yes.
then when it comes to presentation of plans and programs, a very comprehensive programs or study, so it's easy atong tanawon for the
Mas masaya.
RDC to pick up
Yes.
from your end, no?
Yes.
So kani siya, they are always kining mo refer nga na ninyo
Yes.
when it comes to a lot of programs nga naana din na sa ato ang area or
Yes.
in Metro Cebu.
Yes, yes. It serves like a sub-regional platform because, of course, when you're looking at the RDC, it's looking at the entire Central Visayas,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
So it needs to generate and consolidate from the entire region. The advantage we have for Metro Cebu is we have this platform. So, in fact, if you look at the Regional Development Investment Plan and the Annual Investment Plan, a lot of the programs and projects are really generated by the MCDCB in terms of pushing it by virtue of having a roadmap, by virtue of having all these master plans. So somehow we have that advantage. It's a matter of how we push it further, no, at the NGA level. And of course, when you look at the NGAs, my God, it's district. If you're looking at DPWH, you have district, you have region, you have central. So, and taas-taas ang proseso to really make sure that what projects that are appropriate and need to be funded needs to be pushed for.
Okay, now, Ma'am Evelyn, when it comes to ODA funding, so the board will request the local government or the national government to finance these particular programs or projects?
It's really, if you're talking about big ticket, duha na siya. It's either you go through the general appropriations, which is through the Philippine government, or through official development assistance to whoever it is, whether it's JICA or
any other ODA member country.
ODA member countries. No? So, two ways na siya if you're really looking at big ticket projects. But the other third option is PPP. So it's how do we ensure that our projects are prepared and secure the support of the PPP Center in facilitating that. But there are projects which are also siguro initiated by the private sector, and then that they are able to really secure cooperation from either the LGU or the national government agency.
Okay. Okay, Ma'am Evelyn. We still have a lot of issues to discuss with our guest this evening. Don't go away. Welcome once again to our TV program, MyPolitics. This is your host, Art Abarit. Our guest this evening is Ma'am Evelyn Nacario Castro. And you can watch us on Sky Cable Channel 30 and also at livestream.com/mytv30/on-air. Ma'am Evelyn, one of the issues, again, we're in Cebu, for that matter, is lagging behind compared to other cities and region in the country. Ang problema na to sa tubig, no? And then I know that you have been there sa Ramon Aboitiz Foundation, and it's your forte, no? Ang tubig na to, together with before we have the Cebu Uniting for Sustainable Water. Unsa may status, unsa may nahitabuan ni ron, Ma'am Evelyn?
Yes. That's a very important question that we need to ask. And in fact, it's an area where, yes, it was included in the roadmap because Cebu sustainability rests on the availability of water, right? So we are working closely with the Metro Cebu Water District. Right now, it's really more on the quality of the water. With them, again, we are fortunate to have JICA support for the septage management. So it's being worked out in terms of the septage treatment facility.
I see. The one that in Mactan.
That's not just Mactan, the one here in across SM.
Okay.
Right? So there's a partnership between MCWD, the province of Cebu, directly because the lot in question is now exchanged with the city of Cebu and the province of Cebu, right? So that's an important component because when you're looking at water, you not just look at quantity, you're looking at the quality.
Okay.
So from a quality perspective, we need to facilitate a process and a support structure that enables whatever treatment there is that's needed for septic treatment. So the study, again, undertaken by JICA has been completed. They now need to move into the detailed engineering, plus all the grant agreement that needs to be worked out. This is a grant coming from the government of Japan to be provided to Metro Cebu through MCWD. So
are you referring, Ma'am Evelyn, that old wastewater treatment facility
it will be
in the North
changed.
Reclamation?
Yes.
Okay.
There will be a new system that will be
that's
in
an
place.
old one because
That's,
that old used to the lot is used owned by the Public Estate Authority. Now it's the PRC or something. There's a new name for the Public Estate Authority. But the stakeholders are those locators within the area, within the North Reclamation area, those big establishments. But then a big mall in the area is having their own treatment facility.
That's different. This one is really the one that was owned by the city of Cebu.
The city of Cebu, right. Yeah,
so it's the subject of the lot exchange between the city of Cebu and the province of Cebu.
I see.
And what JICA did some years back, I think maybe 2 or 3 years back, was to set up a pilot facility for septage treatment. So we are again fortunate to have JICA fund the entire system in partnership with MCWD.
I see.
So this will be treating septage from 6 LGUs. No? We still need more, but at least if we are able to set that up, at least ma-address the ones that are coming from these 6 local government units. So that's from a quality part. From the supply side, what we learned from MCWD is they are looking at how to improve on their non-revenue water, so improving on their piping and all that, and also improving on their sourcing. But what the roadmap years ago really pushed for was bulk water supply through surface water.
I see.
Impounding. No? I think MCW has its own plans as to what to do with that. They have their own timelines. But what we're hearing from them is that they're going to source it from other sources as well. In all these interventions, I think what would be key is to look at how sustainable that supply will be in the long term. So we are really very dependent on what the MCWD.
How is our water extraction, Ma'am Evelyn? One of the concerns or advocacies of the Cebu Uniting for Sustainable Water before, hinahinaya na to na, no? In fact, there's a moratorium for extraction of the groundwater. So kani karon, unsa na balik-balikan na ba?
Yes. There is a moratorium. I think Cebu City passed that moratorium on groundwater extraction. But I think they defined which areas this moratorium will apply. I was also informed that MCWD has plans of reviving, particularly those areas which have been affected, those groundwater wells which have been affected. The call, therefore, is to look at sources which are sustainable, which means that as much as possible, we look at surface water. We have yet to hear what very sound plans there are and firm plans that will enable this to happen.
Okay. Now, why is it, Ma'am Evelyn, when it comes to kining pag-maximize na to sa ato ang surface water, ibutang na to, i-classic example is during rainy season.
Yes.
Nga ang runoff water na to, grabe kaayo ang flooding in low-lying areas.
Yes.
Nga wa man ni na to maximize by way of having gabion dams or whatever in upstream. Until now, naaman lang gihapon ni.
I'll go to the other part of the water, which is in terms of stormwater management. Okay. One of the things that the board also facilitated is really the formulation of an integrated drainage and stormwater management master plan for the entire Metro Cebu area. So this will help address flooding, flood control ni siya, and at the same time to really look at stormwater management. No? We also receive support from DPWH to have this completed, kaning master plan on flood control and drainage. It was at that time, I think, during the Secretary Singson, no? So key leaders from MCWD really made representations, got that support, and then every year since that time, I think the start of the GAA was in 2016, where DPWH really allocated funds for flood control. We must remember that prior to that, the focus of DPWH was asset protection. So their drainage was really along their roads. No? So they didn't have, particularly in Cebu, a lot of interventions in terms of flood control. So gladly, since 2016, DPWH has been allocating funding for flood control. But this covers an entire metropolitan area. And the master plan, in fact, calls for a 44 billion investment to address flooding. When you look at the flood control, then you have national government. You need to look at the regional office of DPWH. You also need to look at the district engineering offices of DPWH, plus the local government units. Okay? Each one has its own respective mandates. So this master plan provides that information, which different government agencies can now use in terms of flood control. One of the aspects that the master plan is looking is stormwater management. And from that water management, you can actually look at surface water utilization. Because if you have all those impounding structures, you can use the water also for water supply. But
as of now, Ma'am Evelyn, we don't have a big impounding area or structure in the city. No? Okay?
Yes.
Because when it comes to kanang runoff water, it will end up to our esteros and rivers and our creeks. And then automatically goes to the sa atong dagat.
Yes. Mao na siya, part na siya sa master plan actually in terms of the impounding.
I see.
So but wala pa kay we're only how much? I think since 2016 up to now, maybe about 2 billion. So they're just looking at stabilizing the river banks, making sure that there's less to no erosion, right? So a lot of effort, a lot of investment.
Okay. Now, before, Ma'am Evelyn, WRC, Water Resource Center, no, they got a funding from, I think it was from the government of Netherlands, and then they constructed a lot of gabion dams somewhere in Budlaan, a river in Budlaan, upstream. And then, mura og nakuan to sa mga tao nga those people residing within the river banks. So, sila naglimpyo in sort of the maintenance sa gabion dams nga mo daghan na ang kadtong mga bus, so mahimo to nila nga himo og hollow blocks. So, unsa ang status ron? Because there were 13, if I am not mistaken, gabion dams constructed by the WRC with funding from the government of Netherlands.
I don't have direct information in terms of the status of those gabions, but I believe that the function of the gabions is really more on um, lessening the speed. It's not so much in terms of groundwater,
Groundwater,
utilization.
yes.
No,
Okay.
surface water utilization, because the water still somehow
Yes,
flows,
yes.
right? So you just trying to slow down the flow of the water. At the same time, collect whatever sediments that's brought by the flow of the water. It helps to some extent in terms of groundwater recharge, but we have not been able to really utilize it for supply because that's not also the intention of the gabions. You really need to do an impounding if you want to utilize surface water.
Yeah, and at the same time, Evelyn, the CUSW, the Cebu Uniting for Sustainable Water, through the initiative, of course, of the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Center, kamoy usasan sa responsibly nga we also expanded our kining areas kaning atuang sa Cebu City landscape.
Protected landscape.
Yeah, what?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so, mao na nga with that, unsa man dako na tag natabang or nakatabang sa ato ang supply, water supply in the city.
It's an indirect answer because one, you brought out the need to look at a number of things. One is from a policy perspective. Yes, through the Cebu Uniting for Sustainable Water, the Central Cebu Protected Landscape Republic Act was passed back in, if I'm not mistaken, 1997.
Yes,
So after a lot of push, I remember
a lot of,
Sir Art, you
pencil
were part.
pushing.
You were part of that, no? Finally, you have the Central Cebu Protected Landscape. There are so many things that still needs to be done. So it's not just a matter of the policy. It's not just a matter of the legislation. What needs to be done are the programs and projects, and of course the investments that need to take place, no? To ensure that that is facilitative of what we want. So, has it been able to add a drop of water? I think there needs to be a study in relation to that, whether that policy and whether the programs and projects necessary to support and enable that policy on the ground is able to bring the results that we want. So, I would not be able to give an intelligent answer at this time. Kay I think himuonon yun na siya. And again, it goes back to enforcement, the importance of enforcement, the importance of investments in that area to bring, multiple man to ang objectives, biodiversity conservation, watershed management, right, and water resources protection. But you also brought out the role of RAFI. You mentioned Cebu Uniting for Sustainable Water, and of course the MCDCB, or Mega Cebu as we popularly refer to it. The role of RAFI is to build coalitions, to bring different stakeholders and key leaders together.
Exactly.
To address and to look at concerns and issues that beset our community, our society. So our role is really identify the key leaders, stakeholders, bring them together so that they discuss what needs to be done, they have a dialogue, and they agree amongst themselves as to what needs to be, what steps are that needs to be taken to address these things. Key here, of course, is the evidence, the science behind it, right? And of course, the dialogue that needs to take place to enable decisions. But in the end, we have mandated institutions which will carry the ball forward because they have the resources, they have the respective mandates to address those.
But then RAFI and the CUSW is giving guidance to a lot of stakeholders.
Yes.
And Ma'am Evelyn, we don't have enough time, so our time is up. Our parting statement to our televiewers this evening.
Sir Art, once again, thank you very much for this opportunity to share what the Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board has done and what it still needs to do in the many years ahead. There's still a lot of challenges, but I believe that the most important and takeaway message that we would like to share is that we need to work together. We need to cooperate. We need to collaborate amongst each other so that whatever aspirations we have as a society, as a community, we will be able to address collectively. Because I believe, just like the metaphor of silhig, no? Silhig tukog, right? You need to have a good bunch to be able to sweep whatever it is that you need to sweep away. So just like that silhig tukog, more and more key players and key stakeholders need to come together, share their ideas, exchange experiences, at the same time collectively come together and take action on what needs to be done. So that's the important message I'd like to impart, Sir Art, and really a wonderful opportunity to share that with you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Evelyn. This is your host, Art Barit, ug moingon nga samtang mohingos pang ilong sa tao, ang iyang mga pangandoy og tingos bawan, way katapusan. Daghang salamat. Good evening.